Okie dokie. So, good afternoon to everyone that's joining us live, and if you're watching us back, welcome. My name's Jo Palmer. I'm the founder and managing director of Pointer Remote, and we're a company that works with communities, businesses, and individuals all across Australia, but in particular in rural Australia, to support them to leverage remote work. So for business owners, it might be connecting them with remote employees, or it could be doing training and other upskilling things. And for individuals, it can be helping them to re-enter the workforce, or to add another string in their bow for freelancers and contractors to get more work. Today, for our Ask Me Anything, I'm joined by the lovely Kristen Lovett, who is an accountant based in Tenterfield in northern New South Wales. And I'm really excited to have Kristen here today because she is a veteran of this remote work / hybrid team. So
you make me sound so old.
I'm really excited to talk to you today, Kristen, about how you do things in your business. I'm sure will be a very honest look into how you do things, and to share some do's and don'ts about how to really make this a success, and how you really can leverage remote to grow a business, particularly in a rural area. So thank you. I'm really excited that you're joining us. So thank you. I've got lots of questions for any of you that are watching live today. Feel free to put any questions that you have for Kristen into the chat, and I can read those out. But to kick off, Kristen, do you want to give us a bit of an overview of you and where you're based and what you do with yourself?
Sure. So firstly, thanks, Jo, and thanks for the opportunity to talk today and probably share our experience around the whole remote working. Also, to everyone on the call today, thank you for taking the time to attend and also listen. And for anyone who's in Victoria, we do feel for you in your current lockdown situation, and we send our thoughts to you. So as Jo said, I am located in Tenterfield, New South Wales. So we're 20 minutes from the Queensland border. We're inland from Byron Bay, and we're 3 hours from Brisbane. So whilst all those things sound amazing and sound like a really good place to live, it often is difficult for us to attract qualified staff and people that fit within our team to our business. So that was where we looked at how we could possibly change things and open up our model more so that we could attract more employees and more team members. So a bit about our business. We're an accounting and taxation business, but we take a different approach in how we actually do our work. We tend to focus more on how clients can improve their position, as opposed to just getting in, ticking and flicking and doing compliance. So often people get into business as a means to an end. And once they're in there, they realise that, it's a pretty big slog and things aren't always as they seem on Instagram. So while we attend to the annual compliance for people and the legal requirements, so the boring bits, we also look at how we can help people improve what they're doing or how they're doing it, so that they can actually enjoy things, enjoy their business, enjoy their lives, and I don't know, get more out of it, enjoy what it is that they're doing. Or, you don't know what you don't know. So if we can give them some knowledge that's going to help them and improve the speed of how they do things or what they're doing, then we're all for giving that sort of information and creating that level of value.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I don't think I've visited Tenterfield on several occasions, and I don't think that when you describe it, it describes it perfectly, but it's actually a really happening little town. It's got a beautiful main street, and it's a really nice vibe in there. So I don't know, like so many parts of rural Australia, I'm always gobsmacked when I hear business owners that are actually really having trouble like attracting people, when they used the old school sort of traditional, like try to relocate people and offer a relocation package. So I guess it's the joys of road tripping around the place as well, that you get to see these little towns. So that's great. Yeah. I'm always really interested to sort of elaborate further on that. What was the tipping point for you, or the pain points that you mentioned that that physical ability or inability to attract people to the main street office in Tenterfield, but what was actually the turning point for you that pushed you into the direction of this hybrid model that you're now running?
So, as you say, it was ongoing. I mean, every time we lost a team member, it would nearly put me into a meltdown because I knew what was going to be involved in trying to find somebody else to fill that void. And it was a big thing, and it really, really hindered our growth. You know, I had to assess whether I was taking on clients and the type of client that I took on, because we weren't able to bring on accountants or team within the certain skill levels that we needed. So what we did was we had an office in a coastal town of Kingscliff, New South Wales. So, and again, another town that's near the border, beautiful coastal area. We started this office as a means to expand our radius and attract clients, but we mainly did that as a means of attracting and maintaining quality staff. So there's a campus, a university campus close by. The idea was that we'd be able to get people through there and some more employees. We specifically set up the office as an opportunity for one of my senior accountants. You know, she had discussed quite openly and quite frequently her want to run an office, you know, and really extend herself in that way. And I saw it as a good opportunity to develop her further, but also develop the business. So we expanded and went that way. But then as we grew and we had to find more staff, it was actually harder to find staff down there than what it was in Tenterfield. So that was really an eye-opener and something that made me stop and think, well, it's not really location. We can't be focusing so much on location. We need to make our work and how we do our work more flexible and be able to be done from anywhere. So that was where we really made the change to change our systems. We'd already made some changes so that we could work in multiple locations. So it made sense to keep pushing that change and keep moving with it so that we could be completely cloud-based and work from anywhere. It didn't matter where we were. And that really changed the playing field for KLAS. The quality of our team changed. The type of roles that we had changed as well. You know, we were able to put people in the right seats in the right business. So, you know, they were doing tasks. You didn't have a senior accountant that was sitting down with a bag of receipts and summarising them or poring over a cash book. You had a senior accountant doing a senior accountant's role and doing strategic work and doing things that really gave them more job satisfaction. So as we saw that start to move and those things start to come in line and our systems really start to kick off, then that I guess gave us more of a boost to continue on with it and really change the model of our business to a point now where we employ remotely and within Australia, and we also have a couple of offshore teams as well that work in with our system in what we need.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that's a really interesting point that you sort of didn't jump straight to remote, that you tried that second location, and that's really interesting that sort of showed another sort of batch of challenges, I guess, but it proved to you that actually that wasn't the physical location wasn't the driver or the big issue with it.
And the challenges, you've mentioned their challenges, that probably was a big eye-opener, because to run two separate locations was really taxing on my time and it really impeded the business for 12 months. So because I was trying to be in two different locations, I was trying to run two offices, I was probably helicopter managing people in the other office, that they didn't need that, but I felt that was needed at the time. So it did hinder my business and my existing business, because we were trying to do the two locations. Whereas remote team, they still all work under the one business. We're still all the one system. You know, it works so much better. It's a better fit.
Well, that's a perfect segue in then, because I was going to ask then, what are some things that you wish you'd known then that you know now that may have like even stopped you even looking at that second site as an option?
Yeah, well, I guess knowing and actually being open to remote working before we did that would have saved us a lot of money and a lot of stress through that period as well. And I think the main thing that I took away from all of that was change management. So change management is key to the success of this, and also having the right person assist in that change management. It takes a certain level of compassion and nurturing to guide people through change and to help them with that. And I probably didn't put enough focus on that in the initial period when we were making all of these changes. You know, we changed rapidly. So we brought on remote team, we changed our entire operating system. We changed all of our systems that managed all of our accounting and all of our tax, and we changed our billing system. So there was nothing really within the business that had not been changed in that period. So it was huge. So to manage people through that, I mean, there were a lot of meltdowns. I probably burn out a lot of team just for what we were trying to achieve, and myself. But putting probably more emphasis into the change management was probably, I mean, we did it right. We did a lot of communication. We did a lot of assistance with the team, but probably having them more prepared and more across, this is what's going to happen. But really, you need to sit back and look at what the end result's going to be. So we spent a lot of time visualising what this was going to create for us. How was this going to be at the end? So I would say the main thing that we took from it was having the change management in place as this is rolling out.
And that's a really interesting point that you talk about, is actually having that end game in mind and front and centre as you were going through. And I think I can't even imagine how challenging that would have been in a pre-COVID world where you didn't know what it looked like and it was uncharted territory, and you were sort of, it was blind leading blind, plus we'll just change everything while we're at it. It might as well be a dog's breakfast all at once. So I'm always really impressed when I hear that people that have been doing this for a long time, that the leap of faith that you took to do it the first time was really big. And also the tools just weren't around either, were they?
No, they weren't. And really, these type of positions weren't around either. So the early people that I brought on in these positions were just, they were gobsmacked that they were able to find something that was like this, that suited them so well. And it's not something that was commonplace. And even through the transition, people that we would speak to and people that I would talk to at seminars and things around what we were doing, it was just, no one was doing it, and no one was really, it was a new idea. You know, how could you possibly have people working at home? How do you know if they're working? You know, they were all the sorts of things that would come up frequently, and it was quite fresh. And if you think about that, that was only, 3 years ago. And to look to where we are now, where it's sort of expected that everyone can work from home, particularly with COVID, that's a pretty big change, a pretty big shift.
Yeah, and that's funny you use that example of how do I know they're working, where literally I was still having that conversation in February this year. I think that we talk about the tools and things, and we've got so many, so much access to software like Zoom that yes, you can have a paid account, but for so much of this software is free or really affordable. Do you want to talk us through some of the tech that you use? So obviously you're an accounting firm, so you would be using your cloud-based software and things for the accounting side of things. But what other tools do you use tech-wise as far as keeping everyone engaged or keeping everyone in the loop and having everyone on the same page across the company?
Well, the biggest, I guess the biggest focus for our business, and particularly in our hybrid setting, is communication. So we need to make sure that we have regular communication, solid communication, and something that everyone can access at any point. So we use Slack for that. I have looked at Teams and what we could possibly do using Teams, but I just don't think it's as efficient as what Slack is, or would achieve the level of visibility that we have within Slack. So we use Slack for all of our video calls. So we actually have, it's set up so well that our team are talking to one another as they're working jobs, when they have questions. And it pretty much feels like you're working with someone in the same room or in the same building. As a matter of fact, sometimes when I'm in my office and feeling a little bit lazy, I will Slack someone out in the main office just to see if they can do something or check something for me, or so that does have its uses as well. But so we use that one for our communication. It also has all of our channels in there, so that if we're talking about something specific to a client, or if there's setting up resources like our COVID resources. Obviously, a lot of things were happening in COVID. We needed everyone to be across them all the time. So that channel was constantly moving, but everyone had visibility on it. Everyone knew what we were doing at any point in time. So Slack's been our main one. Zoom we use a lot as well. We use that for our team, but we also use that externally for clients too, and then bring in conference meetings and things with team and clients. So it might be that when we do a signing meeting, we might do it on Zoom all together so that everyone who's involved in that is speaking. Loom a bit as well. Office 365 we run. So then we've got all of our Xero suite as well, which is what we're using for our accounting side of things. We're using, Receipt Bank and HubDoc, those sorts of software as well. But really around the whole piece of remote and virtual employees, we use and rely heavily on Slack.
Interesting. So where you mentioned Loom in there in your list, how do you guys integrate that into the things that you're doing? Or explain to people that haven't heard what Loom is.
Well, it's a video tech, and we sort of can jump between that and Zoom as well as far as recording. So it might be that we record something or how we're doing something so that we can set that up as a procedure. So it might be that I need, I'm setting up, this is how you do this, and I can record it and then shoot it to one of my team, and they can document that process. And put it into a set of procedures, or it can be then used as something within our internal intranet type setup where someone can look at it and go, well, this is how we actually perform that role. We do probably rely more on Zoom for that now, but that's something we jump between the two to do that.
Yeah, interesting. And you just mentioned then your internal intranet. What sort of what do you use to sort of have all of your policies, your procedures, your step-by-steps, and all of those internal documents that would normally be on a binder on the shelf? How have you made that in a digital form for you guys?
So we use another piece of software that we use is called Suite Files. And Suite Files stores all of our documents. It's got a really powerful search engine on it as well to be able to search documents. So that actually stores everything relevant to our clients. It stores everything relevant to our business as well. We can access it from anywhere, and we do use Slack as well to maintain some of our procedures as well. So once they've been in there and they're tried and tested, they'll get put into our Suite Files as well.
Yeah, awesome. And do you find that the majority of the tools that you're using are relatively friendly on mobile as well, or are you generally like wanting people sort of at the computer and have you sort of gone into that level of helicopter bossing, or like as far as where people are accessing things, or how practical they are to access on a phone from anywhere? My only thing with that is, and we're always mindful of security, so we actually have a new and this is another piece of online software. So we've got what's called Practice Protect, which runs over as an umbrella over everything that we operate and use, which gives an extra double layer of encryption. So apart from having your normal encryption on your Xero files and your two-step authentications for any of those, you've actually got two more layers of that through this Practice Protect. So that can then lock down where people can access things from. It also gives me a log of who's accessing and where, if I needed to check anything, or if we've got any problems with any breaches or anything, which won't happen now that we've got this second layer of security. And it is something that I'm quite mindful of, is making sure that all of our information is secure. We can access everything from our mobile devices. I mean, we can still have our video calls and things like that on our Slack so that we can be anywhere. But even our internal team here, they're all set up with laptops that they can pick up and go anywhere and work from anywhere anyway. So I can actually be sitting in a client's office doing all the work that I need to do relevant to them, but I can still be accessing all of my, access straight through to the tax office, any documents that I've done, everything specific to our business, I can access anywhere. And I can do that on mobile as well, but it's a bit different looking at a small screen as opposed to a laptop screen. Sure. Now, you just touched on then the concept that even your local staff, so your staff that come into your bricks and mortar office in the main street, have got laptops and have that ability to work from anywhere. Obviously with some businesses that have client facing that need that physical presence, that I'm sure some of your staff that are internal, like the local staff, would need to be there on certain days or for certain meetings and those sorts of things. But have you found that for your local staff, the ability for them to actually do some remote work as well has been, have you used that as an attraction piece to hire locally and also to retain them? Like, do you think that that flexibility that you're offering in this hybrid model has been part of your workforce planning with attraction and retention?
I would say that it 100% impacts my team in that they're probably loving their positions and loving the flexibility a lot more. And particularly too, when a lot of my team have got kids, they've got sick kids, they're able to work at home at a drop of a hat. So it's also given them more flexibility in their hours. So, the team are able to come and go and work in and around what they've got going on at any point in time. So that it's helped our business and helped our culture in that flexibility piece. It's interesting that you ask about recruitment, because if I'm recruiting to my local market, they get a little bit, fearful of our level of tech use. So if you think about, we're quite rural based, that things don't move overly quickly, and we're probably a bit ahead of things as far as where our tech is and how we use it. So I actually see that's a little bit of a barrier when we are recruiting, because people get a little bit standoffish or a little bit fearful of the type of tech and how much they would need to change and what they would need to relearn, basically. So whilst interesting, that's something that I'm seeing.
No, that's really interesting, and I wonder it'll be interesting to see what that looks like in 6 to 12 months, and if that will change post-COVID, or when things sort of start opening up a bit more, where people will have had some more exposure. That's a really interesting point there. That team culture piece you've mentioned a couple of times, like that, whenever we're working with businesses, we talk about that as being something that quite often doesn't, in an office bricks and mortar sense, quite often just happens by osmosis. But that team culture thing is something that you actively need to think about in a remote team. And I sometimes think it's even more challenging with a hybrid team as opposed to everyone being remote, because it's not a level playing field for a hybrid team, in that there are those incidental lunchroom conversations and things for your local staff that the remote staff can miss out on. What sorts of things have you put into place, or strategies have you sort of engaged to really drive that company culture? Because I know it's something that you're really passionate about with your team. So what are some of the things that you've had to put in place and to have front of mind as the business owner?
Yeah, I am. And it is something that I am quite passionate about. I mean, you can teach people skills and you can teach people how to do things, but they've got to be the right fit for your culture. So I will always employ on culture fit as opposed to qualifications or skills, because it is really, really important. The way that we work, I mean, communication is key, and I know that I keep building on about it, but communication across a hybrid team is really, really important. So we ensure that the team feel really connected. And we're always talking. So every day we have a meeting and a workflow meeting around what we've got on and what's happening, and then that gives the opportunity for all team to be speaking. So you might have 2 people that are key within a job, but then you've got other people that are involved in that as well. So that keeps communication open and across so everyone can talk about what they've got going on and what they're going to achieve that day. So it really comes back to, what am I going to get through? What am I going to be able to tick off and have that level of satisfaction from? So we have those daily meetings. We also throw in gratitude sessions with that as well. So as we're doing our daily, this is what we're going to do, we'll talk about something that we're grateful for, which is quite uplifting across the team, but it also gives you a bit of an insight into that team member. So the other thing that we do as well is we treat our remote team the same as what we would our in-house team. So we're quite family focused, we're quite entrenched in what everyone's doing, and quite, we take an interest in what everyone's got going on in their personal lives as well. So we sort of have that little bit of camaraderie around that as well. Doesn't work for everyone. and people share as much as what they want to. So that we find that makes it a good culture and good team connection. We really make sure that everyone knows, so our clients as well as our remote and virtual team, that they're just as important and vital to the business and the business's success as anyone else. And we really put that point across to our clients so that they can see that they are a really important part of the team, and they ensure that they treat them that way as well. They're not just someone who's off just doing a bit of hack work out in the corner. They're actually vital in what's happening with their job and what's going on, and they've got just as much qualification as anybody else. And we do training together, so we'll do training together and keep the lines open as far as, what did you take from that? What's your interpretation of that? We do lunches together as well, and we celebrate things together. So birthdays we'll do together. We'll do a virtual call together for that. I do a one-on-one with everyone fortnightly. So we've got it in a rotation where I do half one week, half the next week. So we do a one-on-one with them to really, so I can get a feel with what's going on work-wise and personal as well, and anything that I can help with or get involved with, or even just to offer them that opportunity to vent, and then that creates a stronger connection with me as well. And I'll buddy people up as well, so there'll be people in the team that are buddied up with others so that they can have those sorts of conversations. Some of our team even have lunches with one another as well. So those sorts of things. And we've got, clear core values that we rehearse and keep going over when we're doing things together as well, just to get everyone on the same page and mindful of what it is that we're doing as a team.
Yeah, that's awesome. And as far as your remote teams, seeing them physically, do you have a sort of formula? Do you try and see them in the flesh a certain amount of times a year? Do you guys do a company offsite where everyone goes away and does things like that, where everyone gets to have those really genuine, like, oh yes, you're a human and we're not just talking about work stuff?
Yeah, I do. I typically do. So, COVID has obviously put a bit of a squash on that at the moment, but typically when anyone starts with me, they come and have a week in Tenterfield. So they come and have a week with the team and a week sort of seeing what we're about and in our local community. Then we often have training sessions or even personal development sessions where I'll bring the team on site as well. So they'll travel in. So it might be that we do something in Tenterfield in something, some really funky little location, or we also meet up down the coast as well. So, Coolangatta is a good place to fly people into. So we typically will go in there and we may do something at Kingscliff or something around there. And then our Christmas party as well. So we normally go and have a long weekend somewhere together. And that is to take work away from it so that people have got that downtime. They're communicating with one another on a more relaxed level. And I find that works really well as far as the culture goes as well. And that's a good opportunity for people to get to know one another better too.
Yeah, I think I love that. I love that the Christmas party's like a 3-day long weekend. That's so good. I guess I'm thinking for many small business owners in particular, they might find the concept of flying people or paying to have people come physically or to put your whole staff in a hotel for 3 nights a bit overwhelming as far as the financial costs and things. Where does that sit with you? Is that just them's the breaks? That's what you do, and that's what this is. I'm investing in my team, or how does that sort of sit with you?
Yeah, the way that I see it is my team work extremely hard. We have some pretty big pressures on us and some pretty big peak periods where, the team have just got to get in and get things done. And this is what I see as a bit of a reward for them as well, in having that bit of downtime and having that in place. I would say though, it's not essential. It's not necessary. COVID's going to be in play this year as well. We may not be able to do those sorts of things. I would look at other ways to actually incorporate that. So, recently for end of financial year, we couldn't do anything together as end of financial year. So our on-site team, so we had a lunch and we did something together for end of financial year, but our remote team couldn't. So I contacted each of them and said, get a group of your friends together, go out for dinner, celebrate end of financial year with your friends, and I'll pay for it. So I did that. It was just a way of looking at it differently. You know, it was, and it may have been that they ordered in takeout, or they may have ordered in pizzas and had pizza night at home, anything like that. It was just something that was different, and it was recognised as this is a celebration of you getting to this end point. If we can't do things this year, we might just do some online stuff together, but then create an experience as well afterwards. So it might be that we do something together online for a day. It might be I do some professional development or something a bit out of the box on a call all together, but then I might send them for a massage or something afterwards to create that experience and embed what it is that they've just done. So there are all sorts of things. I mean, it doesn't have to be high expense. You can still do things with people online. You can still, you know, virtual lunches are great because you can just sit there and have lunch or have a wine or something and just be talking and just chatting about things. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be costly. It doesn't have to be anything that's highly extravagant. I'm just really conscious of making experiences and making, you know, something that the team feel, you know, a warm and fuzzy out of, basically.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. And you touched on the drink there. You guys do Friday drinks, don't you? In the
Yeah, well, we've actually changed that now because I've actually modified people's hours so that we finish at 3 o'clock on a Friday. So that gives the team time to spend some time with their families. So if they want to go away for a long weekend, they can. They know they can pick the kids up and go at 3 o'clock. Or if they've got things that they don't get to during the week for appointments and things, they can use that time after 3 o'clock on a Friday to actually get that done, and they've got a bit more fulfillment and ready to go into the weekend a bit, you know, feel like they've ticked that box. So we don't do it then, but we work it in with other things that we can and other times, but it is definitely something that will come back on the radar. We've just got to find a new day, and I don't think Monday's appropriate. So.
Oh, classic. Oh, that's so good. I love that. So you touched very briefly on like your recruitment process. Can you sort of talk me through, not so much like that, I'll place a job here or do this, but what sorts of things, you said you hire for culture rather than skills, like obviously basic skills you're needing in your line of work, but you really focus on that culture piece. Would you have a couple of tips for things that, like, what is, so yeah, culture, that's a big thing. What are, say, 3 things that you're looking for in either a personality or someone that you're interviewing for a job for? Well, obviously it can be in your hybrid model, that can be someone in a local employee or your remote ones, but thinking about your remote ones, what sorts of stuff are you looking for in an individual?
So, I mean, we spend a bit of time putting our core values together as a business, and that has been something that has directed us for a long period of time. So my interview questions actually revolve around our core values. So I do ask a few things relative to tech and what things people have been able to achieve in their previous jobs, but it more comes back to the culture piece. So Kaizen is one of our core values. So Kaizen is around continuous improvement. So I will ask a question around, you know, what's a podcast that you listen to? What's a book that you've recently read? How do you feel that you continually improve yourself? How do you challenge yourself to ensure that you're not stagnating? I ask a question around just something that would be completely off the cuff, and I would say to them, you know, if I asked you to throw a fundraising idea at me, you know, if I said we wanted to raise a bit of money for, say, the rescue helicopter, and we were going to do a fundraising event, just give me an idea that comes to mind as to what's a good idea that we could do, or what could we run to achieve that. That gets people thinking quickly, but it also allows me to see what their creative brain is like and their fun level. So do they immediately think, oh, we'll throw a party and we'll do this and this and this, or do they say, oh, we'll sell some raffle tickets? It gives me a good feel for that person and what scale they're in. So I put my questions around our culture. So it's not around, you know, how do you do this in tax, or what makes that go, that's boring. How do you achieve this? It's more, what do you want to achieve in these areas, or what do you enjoy most doing? You know, I get a bit of a feel for what they do outside of work as well, which then allows me to see, well, what are their interests and how do they align with the rest of the team? Or is that something that I could really see exploding, because that would offer a different dynamic to the team and have them thinking or doing things on a different level?
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, with that said, that once you make a hire of this unicorn that throws good parties and can make tax exciting, what does some, like, your must-dos, so advice-wise on onboarding one of your remote employees, what does that sort of look like?
So as I said before, we do like to bring them on site for a week. I just find that really helps in them being able to be on the ground to ask as many questions as they can, and really get a good feel for our systems, but also get a feel for our clients, because in that time they will have experienced people coming through. They may have been involved in a few meetings and things, or even some video meetings that might go on, but more so the team connection. So they get involved in the banter that's going on, because as you say, the opportunity for office conversation is a lot higher. So they get in on that, and they can find their little things now. So they might find something that, Kerry's got a filthy mind. So every time that they get on Slack, they might bring that up and say, bring something up about, Kerry, what's going on today? Who have you taken the mickey out of today? And, those sorts of things, it creates that connection straight away by physically being around someone. So that's our main thing. In saying that, though, our latest employee, she is in Victoria, so hasn't been able to come up to Tenterfield, but it's still worked fine. We haven't had a problem. It will be brilliant to have her on site, but she's already made those connections, and that's the power of Slack. That's the power of being on video all the time. And sometimes we will get on a call and I'll think, oh my goodness, this workflow meeting is now going on an hour and I don't think we've achieved much at all. But we have, because we've created those connections and we've created those opportunities for people to be able to talk, that has then strengthened the team. So being on site, spending some time with me as well, so that I can really get that messaging across on how passionate I am about the business and what my expectations are of what we provide to clients. We are all about experience. We're all about making sure that they have an experience that's not like a sausage factory. They don't come in here and drop their stuff off and then come back in and pick it up and sign it and then just hope that they get some money in their bank account. They have a connection with someone. They have a conversation with someone. They know that everyone's put the effort in to make sure they've got their absolute best result. We don't operate a sausage factory. If they want that, they need to go to one of the chains. So I get that across as well, as to that's what we focus on, and making sure that when we work on work, we're looking for improvement points. Every job that runs through the office needs to have 3 improvement points as the job is finished off. So it's just making sure everyone understands that. What are the type of things that you could be looking for? That shows me your value and your knowledge and what changes you can make for a client as well. So I emphasize that, and just having that time and building that connection as well. In one of our Slack channels as well, we like to share, what we've done on the weekend, or we share stuff that's going on with our family as well. So that helps too, because that creates a bit more of a connection too across the team too. So it's really ensuring that those communication channels are strong.
What about the physical stuff? Do you provide a laptop, a second screen, a chair, a desk? What sort of into that level of detail do you go with the home office setup?
Typically, it sort of does depend on location and as to where they are. Now, my employees now, I'm not supplying them with their computers and things. Most have got their own and what they're comfortable with. The ones that I have supplied, there have been a few that I've supplied all of their hardware and everything to. Most have got their home office set up. They know when they're employed that they're employed to work from home, so they set up their spaces. So in the early days, we had a lot of laptops rolling around. Some people have got their own preferences to what they want to use as well, so they might not want to use the Dell that I've got for them. They're happy with what they've got in their own setups. We will reimburse for costs where, if people have needed to invest in different hardware and things. But usually our team are pretty sufficient in sorting out what it is that they need. They work with our IT, so we've got an IT manager that works on all of their setups and helps them with everything. He's got a personality very much like ours. He's very upbeat and not your typical IT. So they developed quite a good relationship with him as well, and quite a bit of banter goes between the two. So he's always on call with them to help with anything that's going on home office wise as well.
Mm. Have you got any of your remote team that work from a co-working space rather than from home, or are they all at home? Or anyone floating around between?
Yeah, it's not unusual for them to pick up and go and work in a cafe or something. Actually, one of my team members, she is a sailor. Her and her partner are sailors, and they get on boats and they trip around anywhere. So they've actually got a boat that they've located to Tahiti. So she lives in Tahiti. So at the moment she's in Australia because she had come back and she's stuck here with COVID. But as soon as the travel restrictions are lifted, she goes back to Tahiti and she'll be living on the boat and living in Tahiti again. So she's currently in Sydney. So, she can be anywhere. One of our team that used to be down the coast, she used to go to a co-working space or go into cafes, every day. She just found that it was easier to change location to freshen up what was going on and, re-snap her into the next cycle of work. So that was what worked for her as far as her out of office. And she was needing that contact with other people as well, quite extroverted as a personality type. So everyone, works the way that they want to work. There's some team that are happy just not to go anywhere, and we're fine with that. So we don't have any that are full-time in other working spaces and co-working spaces, but they definitely trip around and move around where they need to. I mean, last year I had to go to Sydney for a month. I had to take my kids down to a school down there, and I worked in Sydney, and no one would have even known that I was in a different location. One of our other girls, she had to go to Germany for a month, so she went to Germany and worked as well. So it's just opened up so much more opportunity for us as a team and as a business to be able to operate and function seamlessly anywhere.
Yeah, well, that's probably a good segue then into what's your staff retention like with your remote parts of the team?
What was that one? Sorry, Jo.
What's your staff retention like then?
Yeah, our retention's quite good. I find in the type of work that we do, people, particularly in the profession, so accountants typically 2 years, they're sort of looking at that 2 years and they're looking for something more to be doing or something different. Or to be honest, a lot of my team have actually gone into different things. So they've been in this, we've done a lot of work together, built a lot of personal mindset, all of that type of thing, and then they've gone into other things. So 2 of my previous team have set up their own businesses. So once they've left, they've gone into their own businesses. And my most recent team member that I lost, who was absolutely brilliant, and she's definitely part of our family. She's gone into photography. She's been photography for a long time. She's now, studying her bachelor and recruiting for the university. So they typically go into other things or look at other opportunities, and it's a few of them have brought up that's as a result of working in our environment and with our mindset. Because I instill in everyone that they're capable of doing anything. They're not limited by what a piece of paper says that they can do. If they want to do something different, and look at how. So that's we tend to keep I think our last one that we've just turned over, I think she would be 3 years. So and then I've got some team members that have been, so we just celebrated one of our team members. She's been here for 8 years. So we've got quite a different scale. But once our remotes get in, they love it. They love the flexibility and love what's going on. It's typically not the job that makes them want to go. It's another opportunity that pops up.
The blessing and curse and double-edged sword of personal development and training and upskilling your staff.
Yeah, that's right. And I used to see that as a problem. I used to see that as a real hindrance. And I can remember speaking to Vicky from Purple Pajamas once, and she does a lot of change management. And I said to her, I get so frustrated in that we get our team exactly where we want. We build them to this certain level, and then they look to move on. And she actually explained to me that it's essential in business. You need that turnover. You need that type of change within business because it brings in fresh ideas, fresh ways of doing things, and it's actually part of your evolution. So rather than looking at it as a hindrance, it's actually at times a blessing to your business. And since I've changed my view or my way of looking at that, that's really changed how we function as a business as well.
That's really interesting. And I guess that comes right back to what you said right at the start about change management as being really key to that. It's not just changing how you're physically doing the day-to-day stuff in the business, it's changing your own personal mindset and doing some pretty serious navel gazing before you jump into this concept. I'm conscious of the time. I wanted to ask you, what would be your 3 most important pieces of advice that you could give to a business owner that hasn't done this before, that is jumping in for the first time, that you would recommend?
I would say be clear on your why. So what is it that you want to achieve out of doing this? And then start with that in mind. So you really need to start with your end in mind. And that helps when you feel like things might be getting a bit difficult within the process. If you can focus on how your end is going to look and what you're going to achieve, that really helps when you're struggling with anything in between. So start with the end in mind. Communicate well to your team and have their input and their buy-in on this change as well. So if you do have some team members and you are looking to bring this in, explain as why it is that you're looking to do it, what's in it for them, where is their benefit, and then also get that input from them on how they best seeing this happening, because I mean, you can't beat the input from team that have been there and that have been within your business already, and you want that buy-in, you want that interest, because if it's a collective idea, it'll be better supported than just coming from one person and being told this is how this is being done. The next thing, probably be clear on the type of person that you want in your team, the personality expectations. So, and like what I was saying before in my interviewing, I interview on those type of characteristics. So, I mean, anyone can tell me how to do a tax return, but I want to know how they handle pressure. You know, how do they communicate under pressure? How do they, if they've got a deadline that's looming, are they going to freak out and leave it on my desk to deal with, or are they able to cope with that type of thing? So, and then how are they going to mesh with the rest of your team? So being really clear on that, and then also probably creating a bit of a stop list. What is it that you're going to stop doing when this person comes on, or when this employment happens? That then means that changes your role a bit as well, but it also helps in creating a job description for that person. So that's 3, but I'm a little bit of an overachiever. So I would also recommend that if you're looking to employ someone remotely, I would say speak to the pointer team as well. And
shameless plug there, nice.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was not prompted at all. That was very not scripted. But I've done this quite a few times, and my most successful employers have been via Jo and Pointer, because they know how this works. Even just getting me to think about different things in that employment process as well. That's a great starting point. And if for those of you as well that you may not be in business and looking to employ someone remotely, but you might be looking for a remote opportunity, you may just be in a bit of a lull in what you're doing in your own work and looking at how you could possibly change that as well. Well, I mean, if you can hook up with Pointer to be part of their register of people that are looking, you can be placed within roles or find roles within there that may just suit what it is that you're looking for.
Wow, we might have to put a SponCon hashtag on the on the end of the video. Well, thank you. That was a very nice little plug. Thank you.
Well, I mean, it's a unique business, so there's not a lot of people that do what you do, and for businesses like mine that have evolved into that, I'm quite reliant on what you can bring to the table for employment, because that doesn't happen. And I'm not about to go into an employment agency and say, this is what I want, because I'm not going to find it. So this is what Pointer does. And this is why it's so perfect for people that are looking for remote working or remote employees.
Well, I can flip it back on you then in the same breath and say, it's been really, really interesting listening and getting into that head of yours to hear about how you do things and how you think outside the box, and how, like you said, you're a real pioneer in this area, and that it seems ridiculous that you were only talking sort of 3 years ago. It seems like that you've been doing this for a lot longer, but also that this concept is something that what you've done in a rural community is something that we just absolutely love seeing it, and is the reason that we are in business, is because we saw that there is this huge need for not only individuals that don't have to live in the regions, but obviously that's where we started with our focus. These people could be living in metro areas, but for the business side of things, that access to talent in a small town can be really challenging, and you do have to look at other ways of doing things to get the skills that you need in your business to grow. Would you just to round it out, would you be able to, well, you're an accountant, this is a very silly question how I was going to ask that. Would you don't have to share numbers, but would you be able to quantify how leveraging a remote team has either increased profits or like had that sort of a fiscal benefit for your business?
Yeah, so I had mentioned before that it was hindering our growth because I couldn't get the right people, and I couldn't modify my team to have them sitting in the right jobs that they needed to be in without making this change. So it's definitely contributed to 35% growth of our business in being able to do this since the time that we started through until where we are, in being able to assist in making us more efficient. And the other thing that I should note as well, when we were rolling out, we went from a team of 13, we're now at a team of 9, because we were able to increase the efficiencies of our business because we had the right people in the right spots, and they're doing the jobs that they're enjoying. But also it's made us a lot more efficient and quicker in how we're doing things from our restructure and from having access to the right skilled people.
Yeah, wow, that's really interesting. There you go. Gold nuggets, look at you. Well, I really thank you again, Kristen. I'm really pleased that we were able to take an hour of your valuable time to talk to you today. And there's been some really, really interesting points and key little tips in there that I really hope people watching this have been able to take away from you today. If people want to have a sticky beak at your website, or if they want to change accountants, where can they find you? Or do you hang out on social media if people wanted to actually reach out and say hello to you?
Yeah, I do. So I'm on LinkedIn, so Kristen Lovett on LinkedIn. Our website as well is klas.com.au. Which, I mean, that's a pretty useful little tool if you just get in and sign up for that anyway, for the information that we get out to clients. We do keep our blogs pretty up to date, and it's not all about, the boring accounting stuff. There's a bit of stuff in there about COVID and how, we can be helping, how grants work and things for that. But there's a lot of mindset stuff on there as well. There's actually a really good blog on there. It's about the whole concept of balance and how I actually don't believe in balance. So it's called The Balance BS. So there's a few things in there. There's some blogs in there around competition and how you actually need competition for your business. So the next time you're bitching about what the hairdresser down the road's doing and how they copied what you're doing, you actually need to have that type of thing in your business. So there's that on the blog as well. So I'm there, and also Instagram. So KLAS_business_accounting. And you'll find me on Facebook, and KLAS is also on Facebook. So anywhere you would normally want to look for someone to find, you'll find me. If you want to stalk away.
Fabulous. And thank you again. Really appreciate it.
No problems at all. Thanks, Jo. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I'll do. You too.